like I said, I could see maybe some sort of like if we can learn to manipulate genetics, then obviously that could do
Oh,
it. But short of that, I don't really see anything coming
yeah.
out
I
that's
mean,
like, wow.
the CRISPR technology, yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be. I mean, there's a guy, I don't remember his name. There's a guy actually who was a molecular biologist, a geneticist who actually injected himself. He applied the CRISPR technology. I don't know the details well enough to even do it justice, but basically injected himself with the idea of inserting a gene for I don't even recall what it was, and he did it all online. This was a couple of years ago. So that technology will be available, and actually probably is available and being used right now behind closed doors
Were there
somewhere being
any? Do you
tested.
know if there were any effects?
I can't remember. He didn't get anything out of it. I think he tried. Maybe he found the gene was inserted, but it was something that he intentionally did so it wouldn't manifest in some
Right.
pathology, like
Right.
he
Yeah.
wouldn't grow a second nose or something like that. But yeah, this all can be done. Like this has all been done. You can that science. I'm not a geneticist, so I can't really comment specifically on where the technology is. But that's all absolutely utterly there
Yeah.
and possible. And even things like, I mean, just simply myostatin inhibition is the one that always comes to mind.
Right.
And yeah, you can that's an easy target.
Right.
There's some issues like some of those animals have enlarged hearts with depending on the nature of the myostatin deficiency.
Yeah.
The different defects seem to manifest in different phenotypes in terms of muscularity of the different muscle types, smooth, cardiac, and skeletal. So there's some things there that, as far as I know, no one understands. I know, Suki. We'll go a little bit. Not right now. Hold on just a sec. No, Suki. No, good girl. Now she's back away. She'll just keep bumping my elbow unless I said
no
something.
problem.
So yeah, the technology's there. That's what will be those will be the steroids of the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like that's not very far off. In fact, I'm sure it's probably going. You can create these gigantic mice, the myostatin mutant mice. I mean, those are already there. Those are bodybuilding winners right there in the
Are
mouse.
they born with like? Is it the case that those mice? Because it's been so long since I've looked at those. That they are injected in adulthood and become like that, or they are born with the defect?
They're born with those are transgenic, so they're born with the defect. They're kind of created in the lab, and then they're
right.
born.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like we still aren't able to like inject a mouse currently, like an already alive mouse, and take away that myostatin.
No, they actually have done that as well. There are injections so they can have produce
like with
a localized effect.
things like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's there.
Yeah, which is crazy. I know like people talk about like underground labs having it, and I would read some of these people's like logs and everything, and they would report crazy results. Who the hell knows if it's real or not? But it's certainly an interesting topic. I know there are like the heart issues that come along with it. I'm sure there's plenty we don't know, but it's a pretty fascinating concept.
Well, that's the interesting thing. Like it's not in all. There are various models of myostatin deficiency, and you can be homozygous or you can be heterozygous for a deficient myostatin gene in humans, and there are different deficiencies. Some of which end up with cardiac enlargement, and others don't. And some of them will end up with muscles that have lower specific tension. So for a given cross-sectional area, they produce less force.
Right.
And which sort of matches what people have sometimes seen. You see these guys in the gym and think, well, maybe they're just a pussy. Like, how they're so freaking big? How can they be so weak?
Same muscle, though, you're saying? Like a quad on one mouse compared to the quad on another mouse?
If you look at a particular myostatin defective or deficient, so it could be the gene is either deficient myostatin, that's one possibility, or something about the gene makes a defective or a less than fully effective myostatin protein. So, and I don't know the intricacies of the interactions of myostatin well enough to have an explanation for this, but if you look, I've looked into this literature before, and you'll find that one study found when they compared the strain of mouse with the myostatin deficiency or defect versus the strain that was the normal, hadn't been transfected, wasn't transgenic. No difference. The muscles were bigger, and the relative increase in force was the same as the relative increase in size. That's specific tension, force per unit cross-sectional area. And that's pretty much just kind of a standard thing. But then there are others where the muscles were weaker, as if there was something, the muscles were enlarged, but something about the orientation, the contractile proteins, or the nature by which they're contracting. I don't know that I've seen someone tie it down to fiber type, because there's some suggestion that type 1s have lower specific tension than type 2s.
Mm-hmm.
That would make sense just from an ATP turnover standpoint. You can use more ATP and thus produce more force more rapidly, or in type 2s. The myosin is faster.
Yeah.
But so anyway, that's like one sort of, easy potential target. There's so many things that are involved. Gosh, I came across something, and I think it's still open in one of my browser tabs. I came across something showing that it was a particular study. I was down a rabbit hole somewhere a few nights ago, and there was an upregulation of the leptin receptor in the trained arm, but not in the untrained arm.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, this is cool. And one of the things, they find, for instance, and I'm like reading through this, it was getting late, so I was kind of getting ready to shut it down. But
yeah,
is that the leptin, the OB, and the DB mice? So one defective leptin, one has defective leptin receptor. They tend to have more body fat,
mm-hmm.
but they also tend to have less muscle mass. So something about the leptin signaling is involved with increasing muscle mass. So leptin deficient means, in one way, shape, or form, signal or the actual protein that's functioning means more body fat and less muscle mass than you'd expect.
Right.
So leptin's involved.
Yeah.
So there's a great one right there. Like you want to make people really lean. You create a highly you engineer a leptin receptor, or engineer a viral vector that goes in and replaces the leptin receptor with a leptin receptor that is more sensitive to leptin signaling, and you burn off more body fat and you have more muscle mass.
I'm surprised that hasn't. I mean, because even like back when I was in high school, I feel like they were talking about these like genetic differences and CRISPR. I don't remember when the whole CRISPR and like all that started, but I am surprised. I mean, maybe there are a lot of trials going on and I'm just not aware of them, but I'm surprised it hasn't been a little bit more widespread.
Yeah, there are ethical issues there that it scares people.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, because like one of the things that I hear people talk about, it's rumored. I know nothing about, to what extent. It's just kind of a really cool topic. Is that like the Chinese, who tend to kind of blow past some of these ethical barriers that slow us down.
Yeah.
There are genes that are associated with intelligence, and that's a big taboo topic.
Oh yeah.
The idea that someone could be born smarter than someone else, holy shit! Some people are taller and some people are shorter, and some people have dark skin and some people have light skin, and some people might be smarter than someone else. No, that can't be it.
There
can't be any genetic influence on intelligence, right?
I have a friend. Just a quick tangent, but I have a friend who his whole Instagram is he's a very smart guy, physician, and he is heavily looks into IQ research. And from everything I've seen, it's really not debatable, right? I mean, just from all the research that I've seen and that I've seen him post, and but you're right, people get very sensitive to that because they want to think that you could just work harder and anybody could go to Harvard or be this position or that position, and it's like you said, okay, so people are going to have different heights, people are going to have basically everything has a genetic influence, but can't be that, right? So
well it's actually connected to bodybuilding here. We're kind of on the periphery of bodybuilding with a lot we're talking about, but that's one of the things that hits bodybuilders so hard. Is the topic we were discussing beforehand.
Yeah,
is that you may just not have the genetics to look like Flex Wheeler. I mean, it's not like there's thousands of Flex Wheelers walking around on the bodybuilding stages of America or the world.
Yeah,
it's just not there. So people, and that's one of the things that even attracts people to bodybuilding, is you can just work harder. And anyone eventually can, look like Ronnie Coleman or be a pro or have a pro level physique. And that's just not true. There's a bell curve for pretty much everything that you examine. And so for a bodybuilder, that genetic potential is near and dear to his heart, his soul, his ego. That's super fucking important,
Tell me about it.
Yeah, right. I know, that's what I'm saying. It's
right.
Why? I'm a failure. I can't get huge. but for the average person, like that's the ultimate sort of social leverage in a certain way. I would think. I mean, especially someone who's insecure, and that you can kind of judge the level of insecurity based on the nature of the comments that you see sometimes.
Right. Sure.
But it's like basically like if you're going into a social arena, your level of intelligence basically is kind of like like going into a battle arena, and what armaments do you have? Like, do you have a battle axe? Do you have a gun? Do you have a slingshot? You know, a rubber
Right.
hammer? Like, what do you have? Your intelligence is basically what you're equipped with for success in life, is what people would even put forth. You know that,
Yeah.
and there's associations there. You know, and so people put that they value themselves based on IQ and intelligence, and then
Yeah.
of course flip that back around. It's like, well, if you're telling me that there's someone's more intelligent than me based on nothing they did to earn that, then that doesn't make people very happy. So
No.
anyway, so the intelligence thing, it's a fascinating topic. I
You're saying
actually
something about
on
like the Chinese. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know if that was. Yeah.
yeah, that's where I was going. Well, the Chinese, there are genes that have been found to be associated with higher levels of intelligence.
Yeah.
So that's what apparently the Chinese are sort of have been experimenting with,
Mm.
is trying to figure out how to engineer a superhuman.